Hello and welcome back to Project Metal Works with this week's video. What is risk? How do you perceive risk? And how do you manage risk? Well, let's find out and get into the video. Hello again. So, what is risk? It's an occurrence that you didn't expect. It's a deviation from your schedule, from your plan, from the expected. If you remember in one of the previous videos, we talked about a ship sailing from Japan, Tokyo in Japan, to Los Angeles. And you will not get there on a straight line. This is because there are so many things that happen during the project life cycle, and risk is one of these things. Unexpected deviations or occurrences that happen during the life cycle. But one thing to remember about risk or a threat is that it can be either a negative type occurrence or a positive type occurrence. So don't always think of it as a bad thing. In fact, we'll look at the next thing where I think that you should never look at risk as a bad thing. Yes, it may be a threat or a risk to that point in time. However, there are ways that you should be looking at risk. Some common examples of risk would be if you're procuring an item or a series of items, and then you find that the date that you expected these items to arrive is delayed, causing an impact to the schedule. That's what one risk could be classed as. Another risk could be a change in the regulatory requirements during the course of the project life cycle that you have no alternative but to apply to the project. But you should have seen some of these before, so maybe those risks have been identified and you have them, or maybe they just happen. So how should you look at risk? How should you react to risk? I personally believe that you should look at all risk as an opportunity. And the reason for doing this is because if you look at risk as a negative, then it will always be a bad thing. But when you get a risk, or a risk occurs, or a threat, when you look at it, you look beyond the threat or the risk. So by looking ahead of where it's happening, or before it happens, and really to the top and bottom, you start to understand the mechanism around it. And I found through experience that by doing this, one, you understand what is happening better. And also you can normally find a way to mitigate better. And it may be that a risk can be mitigated 100%, or it may be that you can only mitigate it 50, 20%. But it sometimes means that you can actually do other things differently. And from that, opportunities may arise. So I believe that you should get your project team and yourself to look at risk as a puzzle. If you look at it as a puzzle that has to be solved, then it makes the work of looking at it and mitigating it more pleasurable, if that's the right word to say. It makes it more interesting rather than just, oh dear, what's happening? Look at it logically. Look at after, look at before, look at the sides. If it's in the schedule, you can look at what are you doing leading up to that point, what are you doing after that point, and what is the work that's going on above it, what is the work that's going below it in the schedule. And I think you'll find that then you will start to find a resolution, not just at that point. And more often than not, opportunities do arise. So think of risk or threats as opportunities to do something differently, to do it better. So how do you identify the risks that the project may have during the course of its life cycle? Have a risk session at the beginning, at the concept stage. This will give you an overview of the bigger risks and whether or not the project is viable. But you still may have some lingering risks that you'll deal with as you move forward. Then as the project is sanctioned, have another risk session. And the length of this session will depend on the size of the project, but have all the project team members involved. And remember from one of the previous videos, as project manager, listen and speak last. Let the project team put all what they perceive as risks on the table. Once you have all the risks on the table, then divide them up into discipline categories by different things, electrical, mechanical, IT, budget, schedule. From this you will get a series of blocks of risks and keep them all. Don't do any judging at this point. Once you've got them into their discipline, then amalgamate them within the discipline. The chances are you'll have one or two risks that are the same or very similar, and so these can be joined together. This will then give you the number of risks you have in each area. Then look at each risk and give it a category with regard to how do you think it will happen and what is the possibility of it happening and what is the impact it will have if it happens. And I would keep this simple. Don't get too complicated. Just use high, medium, low, or traffic light system, red, amber, green. And give each one the category, high, medium, low, for the possibility, and high, medium, low, for the impact to the project. And put this in a tabulature spreadsheet form so that everybody then can see it and have it electronically. The other thing that you need to do is to allocate each risk to an owner. So if it's electrical, you give it to the electrical manager. If it's engineering in general, give it to the engineering manager. If it's contractual, give it to the contracts manager, and so on. So that each risk has an owner who is responsible to manage this risk. The other thing is that this is not a one-time event. This should be continuous through the project life cycle. And I would suggest every week you have a meeting and you go through the spreadsheet that you have your risks. And you look at them and how are you dealing with them. And have people, not just the person who's responsible, have the team around the table so that you can, as I said previously in the video, start to look at the before and after, above and below, and see what is the best way to mitigate this risk. Can you eradicate it, or can you just mitigate it, or can you do something that has nothing to do with the risk that mitigates it? It may not be the risk itself that you address, it may be something before the risk happens. But there's one thing, as we say in the metal effect, you have to monitor, control, and mitigate continuously each risk till the end of the project. Remember, treat risks as a puzzle, not as a threat. Don't let the risk take you away from the day-to-day work of the project. They are there to be solved. And if you have the mindset that it's just a puzzle, then it becomes better to deal with. People will not get too bogged down in trying to solve it. It's just a puzzle. that needs to be solved by one or more people. Well, I hope you liked today's video. Short, but gives you an overview of risk and how to manage it and how I think that you should approach it. If you enjoyed the content, then please give us a thumbs up and also hit the subscribe button. And please put your comments below in the comment section or email me. My email is there below as well. And if you have a topic that you would like me to address, then please let me know and I will endeavour to do a video on the topic. So, you take care and I'll see you again next week with a new topic. What does a project manager need to do and be to be successful? Take care and bye for now.